This is episode 91 of the Gold Squadron podcast. I'm your host, Dio Morales, and today I'm joined by a massive amount of people who we'll get to here in a little bit. Today we're going to be talking about the upcoming Outrider Cup. Super excited about that. Now, upcoming live streams, we stream every Wednesday starting around 5 o'clock from our home store, our league night. Join us there. And this weekend, we're streaming live from the Outrider Cup, this event that we're talking about for this whole podcast. Super excited about it. 9 teams going head-to-head. We'll be starting that stream around 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's 4 rounds of play plus some pairings in between. We'll be talking about all that in a little bit. But before we go too far, we've got to say thank you to our patrons. You guys are amazing. You guys are the ones that make all of this content possible, making it possible to travel from sea to shining sea and soon across those seas as well. And for this weekend, by the way, William and Johnny Randazzo are going to be the ones behind the mic because I'm going to be playing. I actually get to play an event. It's going to be crazy. Patron shout-outs. Here we go. Thank you to our new patrons. This is since December 18th because that's the last time we had a podcast because we had Christmas and New Year's, all that. So thank you to James Barham, Douglas Holloway, Rebecca Lewis. I think that's this other word I can't say because I think it's a pseudonym, but we'll leave it. Sebastian Moeller, Scott Lehaney, Jonathan Martin, Sam Ledwich, Drew Larondo, Daniel Ellis, Andrew Fern, Chris Kite, Luke Bredden, and Ignatius Bug. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to sending you guys some awesome swag. Real quick, as you can see, I am rocking the Gold Squadron podcast t-shirt. They're in. Oh my God, they're so comfy. And I know a couple people already have messaged me and say, Dion, I was going to pre-order, but I didn't because I thought maybe don't worry. I did order a limited number of extras. I don't have like all sizes even. We're going to be making those. They're first available to patrons. So if you're a patron, you can go on Patreon. Let me know from the stock that we have what you want. We'll get that put aside for you. Anything that's left this Friday will be put up on our website. You can go ahead and order it there. If you ordered yours already, they're already in the mail. They're on the way. And if you need your tracking number or whatever like that, hit me up. It should be in your email. But if you don't have it, I can get it for you. All right, so we're going to be talking about the Outrider Cup, and if you haven't heard about it, you're about to get a lot of knowledge. We have the perfect person to kind of talk to and get the information we need to start with. Ryan Fleming, what do you call the president of Outrider Cup? Like, what's your official title? What do you call yourself in your mind?
I don't know if I have a title, man. I guess I'm just been there the whole time.
Emperor.
Sure, that'll work.
How about the nickname we give him behind his back?
No, we can't let him know about that one.
There isn't one, but he doesn't know that.
That's a shame.
So I want to start by tell the people what is Outrider, because I think that there is, for me, like I tell people, we're going to Outrider. They'll go, what's that? I'm like, are you kidding? How do you not know what Outrider is? So let's drop the knowledge. What is the Outrider Cup?
In a nutshell, it's a team format tournament for X-Wing. Basically, it's designed for local groups as opposed to, you form your own team. The idea is you want your local play group to play against other local play groups. It all started back in 2014. It was Pittsburgh had a kind of a friendly rivalry with Morgantown, which is about an hour and a half south of us, and the Latrobe group that was about an hour east of us. So we formed this team tournament. We wanted to find out and have bragging rights to see which one was the best group. So we formed this event with six players for each team. There were 2 factions out, so we said you got to bring 3 Rebel and 3 Imperialists. We had an epic round because we wanted to do something a little different. And we got together. The 3 teams played it. Pittsburgh won the first one, which was pretty cool. We were happy about that. We had bragging rights over those 2 guys. And then from there, we tried to do it every 6 months. If only because we had a nice trophy and we wanted to get more names on the trophy more often. But for us, we're all real close to each other, so it wasn't an issue. And then I think for Outrider 3, the Latrobe captain, Ed Horn, had moved away to Columbus. And then he, for Outrider 4, brought Columbus in. And then since then, it's kind of expanded slowly. We added Columbus, then we added Indianapolis and Kentucky, and then Chicago's been to a couple. And then this year, it's just ballooned, and we have 9 teams from all over the Mid-Atlantic and Midwest. So it's pretty exciting.
And now, these aren't just like 2-person teams, 3-person teams. These are 6-man teams plus any alternates that hang out. And I think that's like, I've seen other team events out there, and I'm not saying that, that those are bad. But the fact that there's 6 people on a team, and that it's from a local play group, I think it's super unique to anything else that I've seen out there. And I know that I'm excited about it. Like, I guess you kind of hit on my next question, what brought it up. And I guess we'll go to and introduce some of the other people who are with us. We have a representative from every team.
I want to say one thing before you go. We chose 6 players for a reason.
Okay, why's that?
Well, so we knew that every group had their top 2 players, right? Maybe top 3 players that were really good. And if we had if we had groups of small teams, then everybody just brings their best players, and then it's kind of like the best players versus the best players. When you get to 6 players, you no longer can just bring your top players. You have to bring your other players, your other good players. So then you really get an idea of which group is better than the other group. So that was a purposely chosen number.
There you go. It's a true team, right? Like,
yes.
And I know that for myself, the fact that I do have 5 other people plus alternates that we're all working together towards a common goal makes this feel like a very different X-Wing event. Yes, I'm playing a single game by myself, but my decisions affect the people around me. Like, that's super cool.
Very much so.
So we're going to go ahead and introduce the other people who are joining us. We have a representative from each team, Ryan Fleming out of Pittsburgh, which we already had speak. Out of Columbus, we have Daniel Fiorentini.
Hello. Thanks for having me on, Dion.
No problem. We out of Detroit, we have Ryan Stayontopsky.
Heyo.
Out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, we got Chris Chico Brown.
Hey, Dion. How's it going?
I'm feeling good, man. Feeling good. Out of Cleveland, Eric Lazar.
Yeah.
Out of Louisville, Gordon Berg.
Hello.
Out of Indy, we have both Adam Kempers.
Hello.
Adam. Yeah, Adam, this is where you speak, buddy.
That's enough out of you, Gordon.
And Tyler Shaw.
Hey.
And last but not least, we have out of St. Louis, the Gold Squadron Classic champion, Matt Carey.
What's up, everybody?
There you go. So a lot of names that you probably have heard of in the X-Wing community. We're all going to be together. I'm so excited for this weekend, gentlemen. I'm just like super, super pumped. And I want to just get an idea of how your team is thinking, what's on your mind. I have questions. I have an outline, but if you have something you want to throw in, feel free to go ahead and just jump in the conversation. So my first question for the group is, how did you go about choosing who's on your team? Now, we have 6-man teams, but I know, for instance, in my play group, we have more than 6 people in our group. How did you guys go about making the decisions to who gets to play?
Well, for St. Louis, we, like Ryan's saying, was like you kind of have to branch out beyond your top 2 best pilots, but we chose our best pilots, but there's plenty of people that spent a lot of wife points to go to Crossroads or want to spend wife points to go to Adepticon or Gen Con or wherever later in the year. So it was basically pick your best pilots, see who's left over after all that stuff's spent, and then go from there. One of our biggest problems, though, was like everybody is an Imperial flyer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them, so we kind of had to. Some people are just going to be flying out of their faction, but it was like, okay, well, this guy is the best rebel flyer we know, so we're taking him, even though, maybe he's not the strongest or something like that.
It's interesting the way that works, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, Ryan, how'd you guys go about it? Ryan Fleming, excuse me.
Yeah, so we have a league, and generally our internal group rule is that the players who make the playoffs in the league get first kind of dibs on the team. And then in addition to that, there's how'd you do it? The Wave Championships or Store Championships, or how have you done over the last 6 months? And then there's also the whole, well, who can actually go? Like, that's part of it. That eliminates some players. Yeah, I mean, the captain gets final say. So since I'm the captain, I kind of get to say who's on the team. But like what Matt was saying, you do have some interesting choices where you may have 3 great scum players, but you only need 2. So now I got to find, is that scum player a better Imperial player than these other guys? And if he is, okay, we'll take him. If not, then he might not make the team, which creates some interesting challenges. But since Pittsburgh's been doing this the whole time, our group understands that it's not a direct, just because you don't get to go to the event doesn't mean you're not really part of the team. The whole group helps. We have a large discussion and whatnot. And our tournaments, everybody realizes that when Outrider's coming along, the guys on the team are practicing. So they'll ask for the tournament, what list do you guys want me to play? So that if you face it, you know how to counter it. So it's an entire group effort for us.
That's awesome. What about Detroit?
So it was actually pretty easy because we already have a solid group of like 8-ish guys who already talk to each other, always are on the same game night, and always tend to hang out outside of the store. So it was just, well, do we have 6 people who could make the day for the event? And we did.
There you go. You had exactly 6 people. We have a team.
Yeah. If we could bring the other 2 guys, if they had time, we would want to have them come as alternates as well. But just only had the 6. That's all we got.
What about you, Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar thing. It's availability and some of the people that have been in the core group the longest, and and we had a little bit of a turnover between 1-0 and 2-0, so we got some old players dropped out, new players come in, so that factored into the decision. But it wasn't too difficult. We had 7 or 8 that were interested, 1 dropped out, so that gave us our 6 plus an alternate.
Cool. What about Louisville, Gordon Berg?
Okay, well, I'm sure everyone can relate to this in some extent, even if it doesn't apply to them directly. But from a captain's perspective, you think of what your ideal is, right? You can all name off all of your best players that you've encountered in your metropolitan area. But then there's reality. And reality could be who is available. Can they travel, right? Matt just brought that up as far as like, I've already planned to go to Adepticon, or I'd already gone to Crossroads or something. Am I going to be able to also travel to Indy and stuff like that? So a travel player doesn't necessarily mean it goes hand in hand with your best player. And to speak best to this, and I've brought this up on past Outrider discussions in the past on other podcasts, our very first Outrider 5, Ryan, I think it was, at one point, I had gone through a rotation of about 9 to 10 to 11 different people before I ended up with my final 5. You're supposed to bring 6.
I remember that was our first year too.
I would have people come in, and then for whatever reason, life would happen, and then out they go. And I am desperate just to even try to field a team. So when we arrived at our first Outrider, we were even down a player, and we had to incur penalties. And we finished in 2nd. So it's not something that can't be overcome. But just if you were to tell me who are your players, how do you arrive at that? I would first and foremost tell you, do they have a pulse and can they attend? Then I can worry about ideal pie in the sky. Yeah, that guy's great with Imperial, or that guy's great with Resistance, or whatever. That's a dream. I'm not even there yet. Can I even get 6 people? And I've gotten to the point where I've got a group of people now where I involve them in the process, even though I know they're not going to be there, simply because I don't know what may happen night of. I mean, like we had one event where Mikhail was supposed to go and then suffered food poisoning, and then he drops out night of.
Yep.
And can't go. Stuff like that.
Awesome.
That's actually the reason the alternate rule exists, for that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, having the flexibility. I know that our first year, I was like sitting there dying for whatever. I had like the flu or something like that first round. Luckily, I ended up getting a bye because I ended up getting matched up with your non-existent player. We had to
turned
put
out
a perfect
list out there, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
It was fantastic. Columbus, Daniel.
So in the past, when we had the epic rounds, or no, not the epic, including the epic rounds, we practiced through an Epic League before every Outrider, and through that performance as well as our normal league, we chose the players to go to Outrider from that. However, with the end of 1.0, a lot of people burned out like some groups did, and we've had a lot of new folks come in, but they aren't so much keen on traveling yet for tournaments. So we just kept the same group every year. There's some new faces this year, and there's going to be new faces next time around because we're losing people. Like Hassan Khan is his last year in Columbus is this one because he's graduating. This will be his last Outrider.
Where's he moving?
He's leaving in.
I want to see if I can snipe him. That's mine.
Next couple of months. He might be going to Chicago.
Oh, he's mine. Got him.
Collusion.
He says he might not be, but we have reasons to believe he might go to Chicago.
And the first pick in the draft for Chicago is
So Pittsburgh and Columbus are the only winners of the Outrider Cup, and so Ryan is dancing a jig, saying, "Yeah, they're losing Khan." Well, not if he's going to Chicago. They're not. No. I vote he's disqualified.
That's fine with me. We've lost some of our better players over the last year, so I'm fine with that.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to bringing up new people next Outrider and from that point on. But yeah, we kept the same group and we're hoping to try it again. However, we don't have John this time around. So
no Messmore. Interesting.
No Messmore. So
Daniel, I was going to ask you that. I saw he's listed as an alternate. What is going on with him? Because he's always been, he's been crucial. He's actually helped facilitate and run the event so successfully every year. Like one year when we hosted, if it wasn't for him helping me out, I would have lost it. Why is he not involved?
He is going on a ski trip this time.
Fair.
So he will not be there, but I'm hoping to step up and help out a lot more because I'm helping him run a lot more of the store tournaments here in the area. So.
It is a shame we've lost Messmore. I think he's the guy that's been at the second most Outriders after me. So it's a shame that he won't be there because he's a big help.
Well, what has been huge, though, is over the years, you two just step in and fill the void when you see something lacking. You guys have been great. So, yeah, I'm sorry to hear he's not going to be there.
Oh, he'll try to be there the next time around. It's just the timing on how things worked out. So life happens. Life gets in the way, and that's what happened with some of our players. That's why I had to bring some new faces in.
Now, here's the thing. Anybody who hasn't hasn't played in the Outrider Cup, these aren't maybe names you haven't heard before, but I tell you, like, once you're in this, you want to play in it every year because you do create those rivalries. You remember those games, but also it's that feeling of community. Like it's amazing, and like you heard the reaction from everybody playing, right? Who's been in it, going like, "Wait, no Messmore? What? You're talking about players moving cities? You're thinking about snipe? It's I love Outrider Cup. Like I really do. Like it's one of my favorite things. We'll continue here. So we have the Indianas left now. Indiana, like, nobody lives there, so it's just a bunch of factories, right? How do we get two teams? How do we manage that? As a person from Chicago, that's all. Indiana's just like a giant factory.
You're dropping the ball, Brown. Go.
Hi, Chris.
All right, let me tell you, Dion Morales, I've got a message for you. Fort Wayne is coming down south like a raging comet, bringing destruction like the black holes of Kessel. While you're shaking in your little booties, we're shaking dice, because we snack on danger and dine on death. We may be the underdogs, but that's how Star Wars works. We are the farm boy who's going to shove the proverbial proton torpedo down your exhaust port. You can call me crazy, but don't tell me the odds. We chose the 2018 Force for Good Goldie winner, the 2018 most deserving of a Goldie that didn't want one winner, and 4 more horsemen of the apocalypse known as Fort Wayne.
That's fantastic.
That was good.
I don't like giving Chris compliments, but wow.
Macho Man Chico Savage.
That was fantastic.
Impressive.
My team told me I had to introduce ourselves that way. but seriously, we just cobbled together however many people we could find. We ended up finding 7, and we managed to scramble an 8th person from Muncie because we passed that city on the way there, so it's basically local. So we're just gonna come down and have fun. So. That was the extent of our planning. I think our team put more thought into that script than we have anything else. So,
alrighty. And Indiana, how'd you guys come up with your team?
We had a really good play group here in Indianapolis. Hangar 19 is a really good group, and we got a lot of turnout on a lot of our events. And so we actually had quite a few people that were wanting to play. We're actually a little bit sad this year because without Epic, we had a few of our regulars that were more of our Epic specialists that we kind of took a back seat this Outrider because they weren't as interested without Epic, and we wanted to be able to give some other people a chance. And we have some younger players and our community is growing, so we gave them a chance. We had way more people volunteer and want to be on part of the team. And as one of the captains, I just had to make some tough decisions. And part of that was who, like we said before, who plays which factions. And at the time, we didn't even know if Resistance and the First Order would be out by then. So we had to make some guesses along those lines. And then also was a little bit of a, which one of my players would be willing to play a glue eating list if I asked them to. That was part of what went into it as well.
I mean, it's about the team, right? Like, that's when it comes down to, that's what it's about. It's about the team, and I get it. And, it's interesting, when Epic was in it, I know that some people were a little bit weird about, like, wanting to join Outrider because Epic wasn't in it. But I will tell you, like, it added this extra dimension where there were players that you didn't know you needed until, like, you realize, holy crap, they're, like, the bomb in Epic. And, like, just the value of that in previous Outriders was off the charts. Because if you did well in your Epic round, that sets you up to place almost every year.
Yeah, it's a real shame Epic's not available to us this year. Hopefully it'll come back soon.
Oh, and Indy would have been all over that. You guys live and breathe for Epic.
Well, Sean does. That's who Adam's talking about.
Yeah.
That doesn't. But
Sean is all over
Sean
that.
and I will pull out Epic and just play it for fun sometimes for sure.
I want to see just Sean's lighted Epic ships, right, with all of the electronics he puts into it.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, for Chicago, essentially the very first time we tried to do this, we only had 6 people interested, and the rule that we personally made was, like, if you were on the team, then you get to stay on the team until you either choose to relinquish your spot or, for whatever reason you can't make it. So we've evolved a little bit. We have some players who I remember the first time we signed up, everybody's like, why is Marcel not here? For 2 Outriders in a row, he just wasn't even available. He's just like, can't go. So Marcel's actually going to be there. I gave him the night off from the podcast because while I have you guys distracted and not practicing, he's out working, getting some work done. So this was all just collusion on my part to make sure that you guys aren't practicing, and we are. You're welcome.
Well, since he's flying that second First Order list, he's going to need the practice.
Yeah, I can tell you what he's playing. I've seen him play it.
Yeah, me too.
We don't have to hide. We just win W's. That's what it's about. It's about the W's. Alrighty. So next thing I want to hit on is, we are all X-Wing players. We all know what we do to prepare for tournaments individually. What I want to know is, what have you done differently? What are some things that maybe you've looked at a different way in preparation for this event compared to your normal X-Wing events, premier level? We'll go ahead and we'll kind of go reverse order here. We'll start with Indianapolis.
So for prepping lists and stuff, the way we approached it this year was Mark Moriarty and I pretty much took the lead on that in terms of just kind of with the sequel factions coming out and stuff. It was a lot of unknowns.
And thank you guys so much.
What's that?
Thank you guys
so much. That was awesome. We needed that for our squad. Tyler and Mark have been huge for that.
Wow. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so just kind of rather than everybody just like picking their own list or whatever, just having the 2 of us gonna form a more holistic strategy with all of that, and then kind of outsourcing testing for all the different lists and like what's good in the sequel factions. Is anything good? Is anything playable? And all that
Outsourcing
kind of
testing, so you Googled it?
Well, to the rest of the guys.
All right.
Or that. Maybe Reddit. I don't know.
Reddit told me Soontir Redline Whisper is really good.
Yep. That's what
And
I
how many of those showed up?
A lot.
There's a lot.
But yeah, so it's been really interesting.
Alrighty, Fort Wayne.
Yeah, so we scrambled to put together our lists when all of a sudden Ryan said, "Hey, these need to be in tomorrow." We did a pretty good job of getting down to factions because I had a spreadsheet going and trying to beg people to agree upon factions, and then just kind of paired people off and said, "Get together with that person." Because I'm pretty sure that one list that you want to fly that has Poe and Rey and, this other guy is going to take up everything good in that faction. So you need to actually agree upon something. And, just kind of left it to those people to sit there and play test. And we had a league going on that encouraged people to play different lists.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a good way to get people trying a variety of things so that they could get together with the other person in their faction and actually put together what they wanted to fly. And then I left myself open because I find that I can just fly whatever you put in front of me. And whichever one we had open, I just picked up that and went with it. So we trying to find something that doesn't take up all the good stuff is kind of difficult, or you just have that one guy who wants to play Imperial, wants to play Redline, Whisper, and Soontir, and then you go, "Hey, other guy, good luck."
Figure it out. Well,
Yeah.
I think when we discovered that the 5 factions would be available for this event, this was something that we debated a lot amongst the rules committee, right, Ryan? Where we tried to figure out what was the decision we were going to make, and I really think that the path that we did take with pick 3 and you had to have 2 lists and you were limited in that sense, I know created a lot of interesting decisions, list building decisions in especially in the hyperspace rounds that you really had to cut hairs and figure out, all right, who's getting what and how can we best optimize this?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Which I think you absolutely need to have. Otherwise, it just becomes another tournament. And
Real quick, do you guys mind explaining just also briefly the rules requirements here as far as uniques and how many factions? And like we're talking about it, but we haven't spelled out exactly what this is.
Yeah, go for it, Gordon.
Yeah, Gordon, go.
Ryan, you're better at it than I am. But in general, so we had a deadline, which was, what was it, December 15th? If the factions had actually reached retail, then they were going to be the new ones as far as the First Order and as far as Resistance was concerned.
Yes.
However, the history of Outrider is we've got 6 members on the team, and for every 2 players you have, they've got to pick a specific faction. And so that was easy to do, right? We had Scum, we have Empire, and we had Rebel. With these 2 new factions, we're still limited to just 3 now out of the 5. And so part of what Dion was bringing up there were arguments about, it's like, okay, well, we all know we're going to fly faction X, but I bet you there was a lot of arguments as to what that 3rd faction was going to be. Furthermore, there's a rule requirement that there is only 1 unique card per faction, per round, if you will. So if we have round 1 of the extended format and someone is flying Boba and they just absolutely have to have the Han gunner crew on their Boba Fett for the Scum faction, you now have eliminated the ability to take Han in any other way, shape, or form that round, whether it be at the Han pilot and regardless of the faction. So sometimes that can run into some limitations. And so it becomes a challenge when I say everyone can figure out what their best list might be or their preferred list in a given faction might be. But what are you going to do now with the leftover remaining parts, putting together that second faction? Sometimes that can be a bit of a challenge.
And just to make a bit of a correction on what you said, you said 1 unique per faction, but it even crosses factions. So like if you're flying Han Solo,
right?
It's unique across all of Han Solo.
Right. When you bring Han Gunner and Scum, you're not flying Han the pilot in Rebel, for example.
Right.
Yeah, and just so everybody realizes, there's 4 rounds to this. The first 2 rounds are hyperspace format, and the last 2 rounds are extended format. So it even complicates things more because you're probably not going to bring the same 6 lists to every round. You're going to probably have to mix them up at least once, going from hyperspace to extended. But yeah, and you brought up the notion that we had 3 factions, and one of the other options we talked about was bring 1 list from each faction and then like a wild card list. I'm glad we did it the way we did it, because if we'd have done it the other way, everybody would have just brought the best list for each faction. Doing 2 lists for 3 factions, like everybody said, the first list was kind of easy to figure out. It was the second list that became, well, I guess maybe this, or, we can't bring this faction because we can't find 2 good lists. That kind of thing.
Or you have to compromise the first list and take something from it. And you're like, all right, I'm going to take this piece from here, and you're kind of cobbling things together. I think it's super fun. It is some of the most fun list building that I've done. I know that a lot of people are big fans of list building. Like, they just sit there and they'll just build lists. This type of event, if you can make it out to Outrider, man, I don't even know how many teams we can even facilitate at a max. But if this is your thing, I would suggest reaching out to us for the next one because.
Well, since Chicago's going to host the next one, how many can you accommodate, Dion?
We got to talk to the store owner. We got to see how much store can we have. So we'll see.
Can't hurt to start politicking for it now.
It might be Columbus. But Columbus has been asking.
There you go.
We'll figure that out after this one.
Around. It'll be in a place close.
It'll be close
in the United States. And I think that's the additional part of this Outrider Cup that I really like is that it's regional teams, and we are traveling all to like a competition. It has that. It is the most like sports-like feel. Because I used to play a lot of traveling baseball. It has a really similar vibe to that. Where you and your team, you're traveling to a place, you're trying to win this event. Like it's so fun. Alrighty, next city here. And again, the question, I know that we kind of went a little bit of a tangent, is what different things have you done to prepare? Let's go ahead, Eric, out of Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much what other people said. You have to make choices, and you have to decide amongst team members. So you'll get some volunteers, and then you'll get some people that are voluntold. And no, not really. I mean, I'm joking. But yeah, there's the obvious. There's the scums and the empires, and then what do you do with the other one? Do you pick something new that you got to learn relatively quickly? And we've had a couple wave championships to practice some of these things, so that's helped out. So you can see what works, what doesn't. Yeah, I mean that's I think that's a big part of it. This is being a different alternative format. We're kind of going into it a little blind with the pairing process and not exactly knowing how much we really need to, think about that. That's a wild card. We're reading about it at first. And we're like, skins. I don't know golf. I had to Google skins. I thought it was something to do with pork rinds. I was kind of disappointed that it wasn't. But yeah, it's just nothing too crazy. I mean, we like the alternative formats, like the No Glory tournament. We've run some of those.
Well, Eric, you brought up 2 points that I was going to see if they organically came up. You're so good at transitions. Maybe you should be a podcaster, man. You're good at this. Alrighty. So, you hit on the pairing process. Ryan, could you give us a concise, like, how does the pairing work? If I've never heard of this Outrider thing, explain the pairings to me.
So everybody brings 6 lists. You have to pick 3 of them. 3 of them you put out on open tables. 3 of them you hold back. The lists you put out on open tables, the other teams get to pair their held back lists against. The way we're going to do it this year to try to speed things up is we're going to go kind of reverse order of standings to pick who pairs first. They will pick a city. They will then take their remaining list that they have. It'll be 3 the first time, 2, 1, and they'll go pick a list that city has put out. So some of your lists have to be able to handle lists getting paired purposely against them. And some of your lists become hunting lists.
Yeah.
Like they're the predators going after prey. So it creates even more difficulties when you're building your list because you can't just build the best list you think. Sometimes you have to build lists that can tolerate being paired against, and sometimes you have to build lists that you can specifically pick as predators to be against the prey. So that complicates things even more.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
super...
and
Go ahead.
And the skins come into it, because if you get a skin, if you're an A list, all of a sudden you might want to be switched to a B list to get a more favorable matchup.
And
hey, the new guys are figuring it out.
There you go. And let's go ahead and I'll talk about skins. So for those of you who aren't familiar, if you played First Edition, if you guys remember the modified win, essentially we kept that rule in there that you have to win by 24 points or more for the game to actually count. What ends up happening is if you don't have a decisive victory, those points carry over to your next round, and now you as a player, you are carrying 2 points. You're carrying 2 points. So if you win, you get to capture and keep that extra point, but if you're defeated, that whichever team is playing against you has an extra point that they can get off you. It's super intense. It makes the scores swing a lot. I know that Louisville, Gordon, when you guys had those 5 players, you guys picked up a few skins and that skyrocketed you to second place. Like you guys won those like have to win games.
Yeah,
great.
It's almost as if what we thought would have been a handicap actually kind of helped us, because we actually got those games, and that maybe artificially inflated our scores a little bit. Also, because there's 9 teams, you know this is going to happen a bunch this year, man.
Oh, I'm so excited.
You know it's happening, and those matches are going to be insane.
You know, we should mention how the scoring works, just so that
yes, go ahead.
So you're not trying to score for yourself. You're just, if you win your game, your team gets 1 point. Mm-hmm. And they get your cumulative MOV over the course of the day. So if you have 5 of your guys win, you get 5 team points. Now the notion of the skin is if you don't win your game, but you get close enough that there's no victory of more than 24 points, both players that were involved in the skins game take an extra point in the next round. So their games are not worth 1 point; they're worth 2 points. So those games become way more important, doubly more important than they normally would be. So yeah, skins make it fun.
In fact, yeah, it's interesting because then the speculation is like, is there a skin match on the table? Can we intentionally go pair against it? Can we go try to find a way to get ourselves 2 points out of that match instead of 1? That very much becomes speculation. If you want to get next level in Outrider, it's you're switching up who's playing what during the next rounds or something.
I know. Oh man,
you can't do that because your players are all set.
Right, but you can decide
No.
who's a pickup list and who's a set down list. That's what.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you can't switch a player playing a different. You can't switch players playing lists around because that has to be set ahead of time.
Sure, but
specifically to avoid that situation where you can say, okay, well, our best player is going to play this list because it's a skin. Now, the same guy, the guy who's on the score sheet, has to play that list the next round as well, unless you swap an alternate in. But you can only swap. You can't do like 5 swaps to get the guy you want in.
We're going to go to the bullpen 5 times.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually what happened last Outrider, because Mike Jones had the skin against Chicago, and he was held back because we needed the 2 points, and that 2 points determined first place and second place for us. Because if Chicago won, they actually would have won the whole thing. But if we won,
it was a close game too. It was awesome. Can you tell I'm hype about Outrider? It's so good. We're gonna move on. St. Louis, Matthew, what are some things that your group did differently to prepare for Outrider?
Well, Outrider is unique because you get to see what lists you're potentially going to be flying against, as opposed to like any other place you go to, and you're just kind of freewheeling it. And you take whatever gets thrown at you. At least in this way, you get some little bit of choice what you can get. So studying the lists, and we have a spreadsheet saying these are the lists that we think, the Indy's going to put down. These are the lists we think Chicago's going to put down. These are the lists we think Fort Wayne's going to put down. And we're assessing what in our lists can best do that. So it's just weird having that foreknowledge that you can actually pick a good pairing, and you can know this maybe a week ahead of time, so that's weird, but we also looking at some of the lists, there was some stuff we've never come across before. I mean, that's, you know, going to happen with Resistance and First Order just coming out not too long ago. So we got to see some of those lists and then move to practice against them, see what kind of strategies we can come up against them.
Yeah, and when we get to the pairing process, I know one thing that has happened every year. You see that favorable matchup, you're like, man, we want to pair against that one. And you're sitting there just hoping that nobody picks that one because you want to drop your B list on it. You're like, I know, man, that gives me such a good chance to win. And that moment where you see the team right before you drop a list on one that you were about to get, and you have that panic, you're like, oh crap, where do we set this at? When you thought you knew what might happen, and everything changes. It's woo. And I don't think I've said this yet, but we're streaming Outrider, and I'm trying to figure out now how to get the pairing process as part of the stream. There's a problem, like a setup issue, when once I set the cameras for the table, you really don't want to move them. I'm trying to get my hands on a third camera. We had a third camera, it broke, it's getting fixed. So, but I think that's a super exciting part. Even just having it on the crowd and just seeing our reactions, it's super fun. Now I want to get to my next question. Detroit, Pittsburgh, Louisville, Columbus. Anything else you guys want to throw in there? Anything different than anybody else has said when it comes to preparation that you've done?
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, go for it.
Just in general, if in case it isn't obvious, there's some real anxiety over what goes on the table and what you hold back, because there's a scenario and an argument for both. So a good example would be, and this is, and by the way, let's back up a little bit. This is new this year, us getting this foreknowledge a week out, right?
Yeah.
We were used to discovering these lists day of, which meant you had to be on the fly prepared to make some strategic decisions, and it wasn't necessarily a correct one. And it's at least nice, I think, this time around that we're given a full week of having an also over this, as opposed to discovering day of what we've got to make a critical decision about. But it comes down to, if you've got a list and you sit there and think about all of the things it wants to fly against, sometimes it can also be pretty easy to come up with all of the boogeymen and the stuff you don't want it to go up against. And then you can work yourself into a real tizzy in terms of, well, do I put this on the table or don't I? Because even though I think my list is going to beat, say, 80 to 90% of the lists out there, at least from a favorable matchup perspective, wouldn't you know it, my 185 Whisper Sunter red line list is now getting paired against your 184 Whisper Sunter red line list that you held back when I put mine on the table. And now I've got my nightmare scenario. So no matter what decision you make, it's going to be wrong.
It's the best. And like, I think just having the list a week ahead of time, honestly, I think it's just going to save us some time at the pairings. I know we haven't had a chance to really talk in person verbally over this. I think this is going to save us some time, because now we're not sitting there like writing things down, document, like we have it already. Yeah. And anything you need, you should have done it already. You prep. That's why we're using a clock. Adds to the drama. You got 60 seconds. You'll get overlapped if you don't pick your city or whatever. Super exciting. So, go ahead.
I was going to say, the only other thing that Pittsburgh had to do differently was the pre-work, but you have to, when you go to a tournament, you build your own list, and that might be one or two lists you consider, but you can't really do that. Every member of the team has to basically build 6 lists, because everybody's got to give input to all the lists and try to find the best list. So there's a lot more, it's a lot more pre-work. It's a lot more taxing for this event than just, say, even a system open. System open, like, okay, I'm going to play this or this. I'm going to test them for a couple of weeks, pick one, and then just practice it.
Yeah,
you have to practice all the lists, and you have to build all the lists.
And furthermore, I mean, we've alluded on this, but to state it outright, there is sometimes a real problem once you start to go down your roster in terms of who is maybe capable of flying what. For example, Chico there just said, yeah, I'm able to fly whatever, and this is what was left over, and I did that. Me as a captain, I don't have that luxury among my players. I have a distinct awareness of who can fly what and who is capable of what. And so being able to put people into certain lists sometimes puts you at a real disservice among your remaining players, where you realize that may not be their strongest suit. And I don't know, captains, if you've had to go through this or not, but have you had to have that talk with one of these players saying, all right, I need you to fly this? And what kind of blowback did you get from that? Did you get any kind of resistance? Did you have your players go, yeah, sure, no problem? Or did they really lobby and advocate for them wanting to fly what they wanted to fly? And now that conversation didn't go how you thought it would. And now you find yourself going to those other players saying, hey, remember when I said you could fly this? Nuh-uh. I don't know.
We made that part of our team building discussion. Hey, I'm going to pick you to be on our team, but you have to be willing to fly what we think might be best for the team. And if you're not willing to do that, then maybe you aren't meant to be part of this team event. So we had that conversation right up front when we were choosing team members.
Okay, I need you to coach my team next, Outrider. Adam, thanks.
So the other thing that's interesting is the alternates. In Pittsburgh, we tell like 2 alternates. Sometimes we have 3 just in case, but we only bring 2 to the event. But you have to understand, at least at a cursory level, every list we're bringing. Now, you may not have to be the best pilot with them, but you have to understand how they work and how they function, and ideally get a couple games in with them. Because if, Jake wakes up with the flu on Friday morning, you're up, and you're going to have to play his list. So we want you to be prepared.
Yep.
Which isn't something you'd normally have to consider.
And an extra level of strategy, I would say, alternates, they're important. Like they're part of the team.
They're just as important as anybody else.
And they're serving a role this year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
And on top of that, like, you don't want the situation ever to happen, but like I'll put myself in the situation. If I'm in round 3, right, and I know, like, you know what, today I do not have it. I do not have it. It is worse for my team if I play today. Let's go alternate. Come on in. I'm out. I'm taking myself out. Let's go.
I've actually built that in for our extended list. After round 3, Dion, if I don't have it, I'm putting in one of my alternates because, well, why? Why do the disservice to my team if I know I'm not doing it? I know he's just as capable as I am, so might as well put him in there.
Yep. Just the added levels of strategy in here they're fantastic. I love it. It's like it's an NFL draft mixed with like a baseball subbing out competition. Oh, it is right in my tickle spot. Like it feels real good. Love Outrider. Just these different things you get to do. All right, so I know some of the teams haven't even had an opportunity to be a part of this. So the question is, what's your favorite part about Outrider, or what are you the most excited about? We're going to go ahead and start with some of those cities that we didn't talk to on the last question. We'll go ahead and we'll start with Louisville. Gordon, what is your favorite part?
You just said it. By far, the definitive moment for me in Outrider was the very first one we attended, where we're in. So this is back when you had the 3-hour epic round, right? And then we take a lunch break, and then you've got your 2 regular matches. And we find ourselves starting to add up points in that 3rd round. And we actually see a scenario where we could actually win. And that was far beyond our expectations. We just didn't want to be last. That was all we cared about. We didn't want to embarrass ourselves. And we saw a scenario where if someone actually lost, I think like maybe Columbus or whoever had to lose a match or something, and we won this one match, we did the math and we could actually win. And there was something about the discussion among ourselves and those of us who were still playing, because you can't get in the middle there and start coaching up your teammates, but you can start passing around knowledge saying, hey, we actually have a chance here.
Yep.
And there was something about that team dynamic. Like you said, if you've ever done any kind of sports in your background at all, and you've been on a team and you know what that experience is like, that's kind of transcendent. And that was the last thing as I was expecting out of my geeky little nerd X-Wing sort of thing, to tap into that again, because I grew up playing team sports as well. And it was by far the most addicting thing I've done. And I'm looking forward to that. I just want us to have a chance, because there's no better feeling than that team feeling. Yeah, and you know what I'm talking about, Dion.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Because you're like, all right, I have 6 points. I can get up to 6 points unless they're skins. Well, where was that skin? What team was that? What are my matchups? What needs to happen? You start going through all the scenarios, and it creates that hype train, and you know how much your game in that moment matters to your team.
Yeah, suddenly you can't let your team down, right? You've got this insane pressure you're putting on yourself now that maybe you wouldn't do before because maybe you didn't really care because I'm just here to have fun. Nuh-uh. No. There's a lot at stake here, and you're going to feel it, and it's great.
And I kind of want to tail on that, Gordon.
Go for it.
Like being a group that hasn't been to Outrider yet, and that's the part that I'm hoping my team grabs a hold of. Because the Fort Wayne community hasn't been super cohesive over the past year, and I'm hoping that this event we're kind of bringing in people from a couple different like local play groups that haven't super meshed recently. So I'm hoping that we get into those situations and we actually do start bonding, and we'll come back from this stronger.
That'd be awesome. I hope it happens for you.
What about you, Ryan? This is the Detroit team.
So very similar to what Chico said. Like, I think we're just really excited to go to an event because we traveled together a lot and not get paired against each other and be able to root for each other. Because everyone knows, like, they travel with their buddies, and there's that one round where you go up against each other and you're like, oh crap, now we're knocking each other out of here. No, we don't get that in this. Like, this is our first time doing a team event with the group that we're in, which is a brand new experience we're excited to be a part of, and like have all those similar thoughts, feelings, and team cohesiveness that just is almost it's a good word for it, infectious feeling.
Infectious,
you
yeah.
know? It's like it's adrenaline rush in some cases for some people. People who play sports know it.
Mm-hmm. And that is that we're not saying that you have to have had to play sports to understand this feeling. Anytime that you're excited about an outcome and you have stakes in that, it's that feeling where it's that balance where you know either things can go terribly wrong or right, and it's that beautiful thing about being human. That emotion right there, that is what Outrider can give you. And I will even say, even if you're not in the running for it, there is a certain thing you're like, you know what? We might not be placing, but we sure as hell don't want to be last. So what do we got to do to make sure we score as many points as possible? Right?
Oh yeah, I'd love to ruin someone's time too.
Right, exactly. it adds up there. Columbus, Danny, what about you guys? What's your favorite thing about it?
I mean, I'm going to go something different from what everyone else said, because I agree. That's my number one choice, is the camaraderie. We had, for example, last weekend, we had everyone at John's place, the entire team except one person, hanging out, played some games, played Smash Brothers after, went to Roosters. It was fantastic. But aside from that, the rivalries and the people you meet, you're going to see them if you go to travel again, and you see them every couple months, every Outrider, and say, hey, how's everything going? Or, hey, I remember that last game we had at the last Outrider decided the whole entire tournament. Let's see if this happens again, or I'm going to get you this time. And those rivalries that I established, like we had that rivalry at Pittsburgh, because it's always either us or them. So we don't want each other to win. And that's the fun part of it, is we have that relationship established and growing, and it's so much fun to see how it develops over time, and see like, is it going to be them this time? Is it going to be us? We've been just trading off every time. Is it going to be someone else this time around? Because we have 9 teams.
Please, God, anyone from Columbus or Pitt, please, anyone.
So Daniel, the best thing about that though is that you're right. We have a rivalry with you guys, but it's completely friendly when it's not Outrider. Like,
exactly.
I remember last year at Adepticon, I roomed with all the Columbus guys from the Columbus Outrider team, but we had a blast.
Oh, that was a great night.
Yeah, like, but no, that's the best part about it. Like, you have the rivalries during the event, but then after the event, like, all the people from all the other groups and all the other cities, that you're not friends with them. Like, I love it. I love that part of it.
Well, and that's this game in general, right? I mean, this game, the community has been nothing but awesome. I mean, every competition I've gone to, I'm not placing in the top, but you know what? I am having a great time because of the people. And like somebody said, the camaraderie, and it's fun. It is fun. So,
Matt, what about your guys? What are they? How? what are their emotions going into Outrider? Kind of what are they excited for, nervous about, not sure of?
I think we're gonna dogpile onto the team aesthetic, because that was in Missouri we had something called the Missouri Chlorian, which was KC versus St. Louis versus the whole mid-Missouri Columbia area. It was 15-man teams, and just playing in that, you really got to, like, when your match was done, you weren't just watching other people, you were like rooting behind them, like, dude, I man. And then when they roll 4 hits and you're just like, there's cheers, it's celebrating, so you have your whole team behind it, so it's a great feeling. So, and same thing that I think it was Ryan said, whereas like you hate when you get paired up against somebody that you just drove 5 hours to play in a regional, and then you're like, oh, I just drove 5 hours and now I'm playing this guy that could have played back home. You don't have to deal with that here.
Absolutely. Indy, anything else?
I know just my favorite thing from Outrider had always been Epic, and so I'm hoping to see now with how we have all the pre-lists. I've really liked all the planning ahead of time, seeing all the matchups and doing a little bit more of that. So that's what I'm looking forward to this time.
Fantastic. Tyler, any extra thoughts in there?
Yeah, I think we're super excited to be hosting this year. It's pretty great because it gives us a chance to bring some players onto the team that normally wouldn't be able to travel. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Alrighty. Now, the thing that a lot of you are pumped about, the squads. Now, one thing I'm going to do, this podcast, as soon as we're done here, I'm editing, I'm getting this out. I'm going to post a link with all the squads in it so that you, the public, can see them, what we're playing. We're going to be referring to it on the stream. I'm on the team, actively playing. Will and Johnny are going to be behind the mic. They're going to be giving you guys all the information, so super excited for them to be coming along. And what I want to talk about here, gentlemen, is I want your quick hits on what are some surprises when it came to lists when you looked at it and went, huh, I didn't think of that, or something you're like, that's unexpected, I'm not sure about what are they thinking. Just some things that maybe surprise you. We'll go one by one. Maybe give me a quick hit here because we are running a little bit longer. But that's all right. So Eric out of Cleveland, what was maybe something that surprised you?
Not a lot really. I mean, it's all the good lists are there. We got some new things that like the triple Upsilon, just a ton of hull to go through, the quad quad scum Falcon. I mean, it's I think it's what we mostly expected. Nothing too surprising.
Ryan? Fleming?
I think Indianapolis's double silencer list is a bold choice. I'm not sure that's a positive bold, but bold choice. What was the other? There was one other list I thought of, but I couldn't remember. I had it, and then I talked about the bold choice. Now I forget.
That's all right. Ryan out of Detroit.
I was excited to see Chicago went with the 5 RZ2s. I'm a big proponent of that, even though we're not taking it.
We're a fan of some Resistance A-Wings for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Louisville.
I think, to be self-deprecating, a reflection against us, we just had a real hard time coming up with 2 lists for the First Order. On our podcast, if you've heard it, our most recent episode is in general, we are down on Kylo. Man, we're about to find out if we're right or wrong because everybody is running freaking Kylo. And we're like, okay, either we have completely missed the mark here or we're going to go out and prove our words here. But the biggest
Kylo's a lot better if you can try to dodge those Initiative 6 matchups.
Okay, but this is the great thing about this format. Let's say in general we are making the argument, no, you can't go win a major tournament with Kylo because what may be out there. The thing about Outrider, though, is you can really tailor-make what your opponent is going to be when you're flying Kylo, right? I mean, you at least maybe have some say in it. So if you can get the matchup you're looking for, suddenly Kylo's going to be a terror, right? He's not going to be, none of our arguments are going to hold water if you can maybe set up an ideal matchup with him. Suddenly any list can be good if you can set up the ideal matchup. So going in the opposite direction, because we couldn't figure out what our second list was in first order, we really missed the boat on those Upsilon shadows. Every single faction brought Upsilon except one other one, right? All of you guys brought triple ups. And we're one of the teams that
Chicago doesn't have what that one.
But I mean, it's everywhere.
But it's out. Yeah, it's in most of them for sure.
You have an answer for it. It's everywhere, and so now we're starting to wonder: did we really, really, really screw up here by not also bringing that?
St. Louis, Matt Carey.
I'm gonna jump on the triple Upsilon train. It's like there's 5 lists in hyperspace and 1 in extended, and it was just something we didn't have optics on. And looking at it, I mean, and that was one of the lists that we practiced against. So yeah, it was a big surprise to see so many of them.
Daniel?
I was interested in the unique lists that people brought because it indicated that the players in the local area were probably playing these more frequently. I think one of the lists I saw was like 4 interceptors and Gideon. I think that was St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken. And then
yes,
yeah, and I looked at that and it's like I had a big question mark in my head. I'm like, I didn't think someone would bring something like this, but I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. And
have you ever heard of biophysical? Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Really?
he's been talking up that one.
Okay,
yeah, and if you referenced how well he did in the Mizichlorian that Carey there was talking about just a little while ago, he went like 4-0, man. He stomps with that list. That's
I'm looking forward to it because
in other words, don't pair against that. Avoid it.
Oh, this seems like an easy mod that I do.
What have I done? Who did I draw? No.
Chico out of Fort Wayne.
Yeah, the thing that got me were the bids. And I think that's something we didn't super hit on is that your team bid has an effect on things. And just looking at some of the bids that people put out there and realizing that we super didn't plan for it. Like our deepest bid is 13, and that's team total for the round.
Can we cover that real quick? Because on Top Ski, I know you've got some thoughts on this. Can you say in one sentence what you said on OCX as to what your thought process is on this?
Bids are for suckers.
There you go. Bids are for suckers. And I don't think Ryan is wrong. I'm sorry to interrupt here real quick, but I want to talk on this. In past Outriders, every time we had to do a pairing selection, it was always determined on who had the lowest bid. So there was this insane race to the bottom collectively across all 6 lists when you add up the bid, who got to make the first selection. And that could be a real advantage. We are making a change to that this year. Only in the first round we play, hyperspace round 1, is that going to be a factor.
Yep.
Then, and I didn't even realize this, Ryan, because I don't think it's quite spelled out in the rules. You said in reverse order for the second round, that is going to dictate who goes when.
Yeah,
so
the team it is in the rules. The team with the fewest points.
Okay.
Yeah, ranking wise.
Yeah.
Okay. So
team bid is the tiebreaker if there's 2 teams with the same number of points.
But so in other words, you could do all of this work for this huge bid, and it was really maybe only going to benefit you by 1 round, right?
Yep.
And then that's kind of out the window. However, there are a ton of teams this year, and that is then the tiebreak if we have because if all of us go 3-3, suddenly this is going to matter.
Oh yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see.
Early, it'll come up more than it will later.
Correct.
Yeah, that was our thought process. Is like we were making the large bids as we normally did for the last Outrider, and then I think a week or 2 before everything was finalized, they point out, "Hey, bids are tiebreakers." I'm like, "Oh, no, this is still okay. We'll keep it as is."
Right, because that being said, when you pair up against another list, it may help you, right? Which is like, oh, look, I see there's a bunch of I5s. I got a bunch of I5s, but I got the bid. Yeah, I'll go against these guys.
Yeah, like Ryan, Pittsburgh and us went to the 183 Red Line Soontier Whisper. Then a lot of people were just going
Oh my
184.
God. I told my team that. I said, we have to go with 185 Whisper Red Line Sunter because you're going to get 15 points from that in the collective bid. How can we ignore that? Every team's going to do this. I said, in fact, I bet you those jerks are going to go crack shot and go 184. You know what? I bet you they're going to realize that. I bet you're going to drop it. And I was told, no, Predator's too important.
No,
Guess what am I not putting on the table now? Because there's freaking 183 and 184 against my 185.
Now, this is amusing because for the first round, Indy didn't try to win the bid. We just built the lists how we normally would and how we wanted them. And we figured somebody would go crazy deep first round to make sure they got it.
Same here.
And so we weren't even trying to go deep. We just built the list how we wanted, and all of a sudden we got first round pick. And it wasn't a plan out at all.
For your hyperspace, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. For Detroit, if you notice, our total team bid and extended in the later rounds is 10. So
when it's least likely to matter, right?
Correct.
If Ryan is true and these scores start to spread out over the rounds.
Don't look at Columbus. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
we were so
32.
excited. We were so excited that we had won the bid for extended. I'm like, yes. And then I go over the rules again. I'm like, oh, crap.
So I do think that the bidding is so in the previous Outriders, at the end of 1.0, there were far more hard counters that you had to worry about for certain lists. And while there are some counters now, they aren't as stark as they were at 1.0. At least I don't think. I mean, there's some lists that are problems for others, but you still have a fighting chance against most things with anything. So more so, I think, than you did 6 months ago or 7 months ago.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we didn't think it mattered quite as much. I mean, we wanted a bid for some lists and we wanted a team bid, but we weren't going bananas.
Yeah, and then there's that added part where you're thinking about a lot of time when you think about bids, you're thinking head to head when you're just playing normal tournaments. Because you do get to put down a couple lists, you can be like, you know what? Normally I wouldn't have the luxury of being able to put X upgrade on my ship, but now that I know that I'm able to place it, I give myself the luxury. So, you know what? I'm gonna take a couple more points on my list. That's gonna bolster my power because I have the opportunity to pair it.
You heard it here, everyone. Kylo's not going on the table.
I don't know. What
my Whisper Soontier Red Line is running 193. Do you think I'm putting that on the table?
You've got bombs. You're fine. Don't worry about it.
Alrighty. Did I miss anybody for that one? I think I have everybody marked. That everybody said something.
Yeah, we got Indy here.
Indy, my bad. My bad.
There's a few things. First of all, who is it? Was it Detroit is playing Captain Cardinal? So that's interesting. It's definitely not something I expected to see. Also, Tom Buise's Scum Swarm with all the TIE fighters and escape crafts.
God.
Hey, you don't know for certain he's running that.
Yes, we
And then the last thing, no one is bringing Dash, which I did not expect.
Yay.
I'm proud of everyone.
I'm so proud of this community.
Did you notice Chris Allen's thank you post after he posted all the lists? He said, thank you for not combo breaking.
I don't think that's because anybody was being particularly nice. I think they just wanted to Han Gunner on Scum instead.
Yeah.
You're probably not wrong there.
Yeah, and deciding where Moldy Crow went.
Yeah, Moldy Crow.
Moldy Crow. And then can you even build a second Rebel list that you're confident in extended?
Exactly what Ryan just said. What's
Somebody
your
brought
second Rebel list?
Some people brought 2 Rebel lists that neither of them are Dash. I didn't expect that at all.
That's okay for people to be wrong.
Alrighty. Now, is there anything else that we've, for somebody who's maybe on the fence, like, I was thinking about, I heard about this Outrider thing, or this sounds really cool. Is there anything else that we need to add here to basically say, hey, you need to become a part of this Outrider thing if you want to have this team experience? Like, is there anything else that I'm missing? Anything else they didn't touch on?
Can we call a team out specifically, like a city?
Oh, go ahead.
Wisconsin, where you at?
Where you at, Wisconsin? Where you cheese?
The great city of Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean,
green crates on top. Where you at?
Right, Milwaukee.
For those of you that may be thinking about doing this in the future, the idea is that you must bring a group of players representative of your local, say, metropolitan area, for example. And to be fair, our team is kind of an exception to that. We have a difficult time just getting people together for a tournament in our state, let alone is it Louisville versus Lexington or whatever like that. So we were given a bit of an exception, but by and large, you have to be able to prove these players are local to each other for the most part, and that you play and participate together in events all the time. If you want to be able to host an event, the requirement is that you guys had to have participated in at least 2 previous Outriders. So for example, this is the first opportunity Indianapolis has had to be eligible to be a host of the event, and they took advantage of it because they've got a great store. Right. So we're excited to be able to go play in Indy this year.
Absolutely.
To answer your other previous question, Dion, to get other teams, we have a pretty cool trophy.
Yeah. You know, I'll make sure to put a picture in the description. It's this awesome Darth Vader head. And explain the bottom part, because I think that just the history that carries is pretty awesome. Yeah,
so when a team wins, there's a plaque that's put on with the team name, the date, all the players on the team get their name inscribed on it, and then all the other teams that participated, their point totals are put in. Their players aren't put on there, but their team names are put on there. We have 9. We had 9 spaces originally on the bottom of the trophy, so we'll have 1 left after this, which means at some point in the next year, I have to take the trophy to the trophy shop in Pittsburgh and get another bigger base put on the bottom so we can keep it going.
Make it bigger.
But it's cool. It's like a Stanley Cup. And if you win the trophy, you get to take it back to your city and put it in your store or wherever you want to put it until the next Outrider. So right. It's a pretty cool tradition.
I see somebody asking, when is this coming to the West Coast? Listen, the rule is you have to participate in one. You have to buy in. Be like, hey, I'm part of this, and then you are put up for consideration if that's something you want.
Ryan, this is where you explain Florida, dude.
Yeah, so that's probably not going to happen. I'd love to have it go to the West Coast. Like, we had a team from Orlando, Florida that was legitimately interested. And I told them I said, listen, guys, you are always welcome to come participate. But I want to tell you up front, the chances of you guys hosting are pretty slim to none. Unless it becomes a much bigger national event, then that kind of changes the equation. But I think ideally we'd like to keep it so at least the teams that have won the trophy before and can get to the event pretty without too much undue burden.
Yeah.
But
what's a championship event without the champion being there to defend themselves like that? That's how I look at it.
Yeah, like ideally, everybody's welcome, but we want to kind of keep it local to this Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana kind of area.
Well, we could start having regional like Outrider trials, and then we could have Outrider like qualifiers, and then
Hyper Outrider.
Yeah, we need a lot more teams for that, but yes.
Fantastic. Well, so the last part, I want you guys to really take a second and think about this, and I'll talk to the people while you guys maybe get a piece of paper and do this. I want you, every team, to pick 3 teams that you believe are most likely to place, so that's first, second, or third, not including yourself. Can't include yourself in it. Top 3 teams that you think have a chance to get into that top 3. I'll give you guys a moment. So for the people watching and listening at home, again, we're going to be streaming this live this weekend on Saturday. We're going to be starting the pairing process around 10:30 Eastern. I would suspect that play starts a little bit after 11. We're going to do our best to get everything set up as quickly as possible. We do have a limited window to get set up, but we're going to be bringing that to you live on Twitch. You can also watch on YouTube if you'd like. Super excited to do that. All right. I'm going to start. I'll go first. So I basically, when I put this question forth for myself, I was like, all right, I want to kind of think of I think it would be disrespectful not to call the champion and say, I think the champion has a chance. All right.
Disrespect him. No.
So I'm putting, listen, Columbus. I'm putting Columbus is like my number 1 pick. All right. Columbus to repeat. And then I was like, all right, let me look at a new team. who's like just looking at the new teams, who am I the most afraid of? You know, I know kind of some players that they have there. It was a little bit of a toss-up, but I'm going to go ahead and say I'm nervous about St. Louis. Nervous about St. Louis. And then there's a ton of teams. No disrespect to anybody, but we are a couple days out, so I guess we could talk trash a little bit. You know, that family-friendly trash. And you know, I looked at Indiana and I was like, all right, so there's a real city and then this place called Fort Wayne where like 5 people live. You know, so I was like, I don't know what. I'm just gonna not pick Indiana because again, it's just like it's Chicago adjacent. It wants to be Illinois. It's just not. So I was like, no, not them. And then I got to go Pittsburgh. A lot of experience there from the very beginning. First Outrider. Again, my picks are Pittsburgh, Columbus, and St. Louis. All right, now we'll go through everybody else. Feel free to insert your trash as you go. We'll go in alpha order. Okay, we'll go in alpha order. No, that's not fun. We'll start with Indy. Go ahead.
I had to find my mute button. Sorry.
It's all right.
Let's do, I don't know, Detroit. Like a lot of what they got going on. I'm not sure about some of their lists, but if they're holding those back and they're picking those matchups, it might work out for them. And then I still like Columbus and Pittsburgh. I mean, it's hard to knock the incumbents.
Yep. I mean, right? Like they're like the favorites. Vegas would have them as the favorites. Fort Wayne. Who are your picks?
I refuse to play by your rules, so I pick Fort Wayne, and Fort Wayne.
That is ineligible. Try again. Come on. Stop cheating. You're cheating.
I honestly have no idea because I put so little effort into this. Like, we are going down there to like have a blast and hang out with people. So I'm going to give you my top 3 groups that I'm excited to hang out with.
Okay, I'll take
Pittsburgh. I'm excited to hang out with Pittsburgh. I haven't seen Fleming in a long time since I whooped his butt in Ohio.
Oh,
so I'm excited to see him. Gordon, it's always great to hang out with you guys, and you're bringing up Josh Dunn. I'm just sad that we're not able to get there early so we can have the pregame 5K, and then St. Louis. Those guys, when I saw them out at Crossroads, they were a blast to talk to. So I'm excited to see them again.
Alrighty, Louisville.
All right, not Pittsburgh. If anything, just not Pittsburgh. They are going to finish so far down in the standings. It is bound to happen. It's gone to Ryan's head. This is the year it really blows up in his face. Just like 2 years ago in Columbus when it blew up in your face, Ryan. Honestly, the team that scares me the most is Indy, because it's one thing for everybody to look at these lists and to look at like, oh, I don't want to go up against that list. I don't want to go up at that list. But then if you've done this enough and you start to know who the people are behind these lists, if you're aware of who these indie players are, then you should be scared. They have had a roster overhaul and they are deep top to bottom. They by far scare me the most. If I had to make a prediction as to who's going to win it, probably Columbus. But however, Messmore not being involved does give me a little bit of pause. And yes, I'm also scared on the back of Carey and Biophysical what St. Louis may do. So they've got me nervous as well.
Alrighty. Well, let's go ahead, pass it on to St. Louis.
Top of my list is Indianapolis. I know that I've played some of the Hangar 57 or the Hangar guys at the many different events up there, and just looking at every one of their lists, I looked and I was like, this is a strong list. This is a strong list. This is a strong list. Second, I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. They got a lot of experience there and some talent to fly it. And I also like their lists as well. And then my third is just Chicago, because I know you got Marcel, you got Dion, you got you. So there's some good pilots there, and that's worth fearing.
There you go. Columbus.
I appreciate everyone's voting for Columbus, by the way, but I can't,
as I stand upon my throne.
Yeah, but here's the thing: I don't think that Pittsburgh or Columbus is going to win this time around.
Oh, bold! I like it. All right.
The reason for that is there's no epic round, and so the advantage we have of matchups and all that information that we past experience will not apply. Also, we haven't won when John wasn't there. So John's not there. So it's already bad karma. I can't vote for Pittsburgh in my top 3 because it's Pittsburgh and we have that rivalry. No offense, Ryan, but but my top three would be Indy, Chicago. The third one's hard, but it's a toss-up between Detroit and St. Louis. I really like Detroit's list. St. Louis has a lot of good players too, but theirs is going to be more matchup dependent. So if they match up well, they're going to have a lot of success.
All right, I'm writing it down though. You got to pick one. I'm going to make you pick one.
All right. I'll go with Detroit because I know Ryan.
there you go. There you go. We'll pass it on to
Fort Wayne is the only team he didn't mention in that.
All right, we'll pass it on to Detroit.
So always got to go with the previous champion, but I think I'd be thrown out of the state if I pick something from Ohio, so it's got to be Pittsburgh. Indy and Indianapolis, definitely. Those guys always show up and travel very well, and they're not traveling this time, so they can have everyone they want. And St. Louis for me as well. Those Arch Alliance guys showed up at Crossroads, and it sounds like they've put in a lot of work towards not only the beginning of second issue. I think there was a strong haul for them, like just putting in a lot of games at the end of first. So it's not just like recent.
There you go. So you had Pitt, Indy. What was the third team again? Sorry.
St. Louis.
St. Louis. All right. Thought I had it right. Just double checking. And we'll pass it to Cleveland. Cleveland. Nobody's picked you. Disrespectful.
Well, it's yeah, we're used to it.
It's the Browns syndrome, right? It's Cleveland Browns syndrome.
So if it comes down to Pittsburgh needing Cleveland to win a game to score a point, we will happily lose that game.
Yeah, we know you can't do it.
You out.
Wow. Oh my God.
So I'm just basically going by experience and maybe size of community. So I just put Columbus, Pittsburgh, and Chicago because I don't know what I'm doing. So there you go.
All right. And we finish up here with Ryan out of Pittsburgh.
Well, I pity all you fools who didn't say Pittsburgh. We win even-numbered Outriders with regularity. In fact, we never lost one. But since I can't pick myself, I'm not going to pick Columbus because it's an even-numbered Outrider, and Columbus loses those. So I think the new guys, the new teams are going to have a bit of a learning curve. So I'm going to say that they're not going to win, but I think that there's some dark horse candidates in there that could do well. But I do think Dion, Chicago, you guys seem like you're prepared, you're ready to go, you're enthusiastic. So I'm going to put you on the list. I'm going to put Indianapolis on the list because they're hosting, and when you're hosting, you have the full complement of players to choose from, which is a big deal. I think I also got to pick Louisville. I mean, you guys were close once. You didn't do so well the next time, but I think you're kind of ready. So I'm going to give it
like we backdoored into this because he had no one left to pick.
No. I mean, Gordon, I'm not just saying it. I think you guys have a good shot. I think you have some good players down there. I think you've done it. I think you're familiar with the pairing process. I think that matters. I think you know what to expect. I think that matters. And frankly, as the captain of Pittsburgh, I hate not saying Pittsburgh's going to win, but as the kind of the Outrider guy, I'd like to see someone that's not Columbus or Pittsburgh win it. So yeah, I got to go with the 3 veteran teams that aren't Columbus and Pittsburgh.
There it is. There it is. So if you're playing at home, let's take a second. Chat. Pick your 3. Again, we'll go to the teams where your choices are Detroit, Fort Wayne, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Cleveland, Louisville, Kentucky, Indianapolis, St. Louis, or Columbus. We'll let you guys choose your top 3 there. Gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for joining me, giving me an hour plus of your night. I appreciate it. I'm excited to see every single one of you here in a couple days, and I hope if I see you across the table that you lose. That's all I can say.
Same back at you.
So now Lord Vader asks, what have we done with those plans? Well, we've been talking about it already. This weekend, the Outrider Cup. Make sure you join us. Again, stream starts around 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's only 4 rounds of play, but we have a very lengthy pairing process in between that has all the drama. Again, you've listened to the podcast. You've heard us talk about it already. And then after that, on January 26th and 27th, we're going to be on the ground floor in Phoenix, Arizona, bringing you all the action and the whole thing, all the Swiss, all the way to the end of the cut. We'll be there live. And thank you to our sponsors for that event. Thank you to Curled Paw Creatives, District Foundry, and Evan Pomerantz. You guys are fantastic. Thank you for your support, and we'll be there talking about them on January 26th and 27th. Lastly, if you love our content, you like doing all the things, here's all the ways you can enjoy Gold Squadron Podcast. Follow us on Twitch. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And if you want to get the awesome swag, go to patreon.com/Gold Squadron. Quick note, if you think you're supposed to have swag and you haven't gotten it, make sure you reach out to me. I literally mail hundreds of letters when I'm doing this. Sometimes things get missed, or the post office sends them back for whatever reason. Double check, make sure that your address is input correct. Make sure that your address is in there, because what happens is I press print all and make envelopes and stuff from that. So make sure, double check with that. I actually literally just got a couple of sendbacks yesterday. So I'm going to be getting in contact with some people for that. But anyway, thank you everybody for listening to this episode of Gold Squadron Podcast. My name's Dion Morales. Gold Squadron, out.